Welcome, Gold Derby. We are here to announce the nominees for the 13th Annual Gold Derby Film Awards. I'm here with Charlie Bright and Chris Beachum. We will be taking turns announcing the nominees in all categories. Nothing to it but to do it. Let's begin with from the bottom up. We're starting with Best Foreign Language Film. The nominees are Force Majeure from Sweden, Ida from Poland, Leviathan from Russia, Mommy from Canada, and 2 Days, 1 Night from Belgium.
It's a very different lineup that the Oscars have.
Very different. I'm very happy with that lineup. I'm sort of surprised that Mommy got in because if it was released in 2014, it was very limited. It's only rolling out this winter now, but I did get a chance to see it. It is an outstanding film, and the films in this category that I've seen are outstanding. It's a very good category. Moving on to Best Documentary, which is another category where we diverged greatly from the Oscars. The nominees are The Case Against Eight, Citizen4, Jodorowsky's Dune, Life Itself, and Virunga. So the only nominees similar to the Oscars there are Citizen4 and Virunga, which is I'm always excited by our users' diverse taste in documentaries.
Yeah, it's interesting. We got two films. Usually we like to think that the Oscars like films that deal with the subject of film, but we have two fantastic documentaries about cinema here, or people related to cinema, Jodorowsky's Dune and Life Itself.
Yeah, also interesting, one thing I noticed that the film that finished in 6th place, didn't quite make it in for a nomination, was a film that wasn't initially in our prediction center, but by popular demand I added it not long after we launched. Elaine Stritch, Shoot Me, that documentary was just outside of a nomination by a few points.
And by the way, we didn't mention it off the top, but as soon as we finish this, Daniel will post the full list on the homepage, and we will launch the awards event. Go to your prediction center page, and you can start making your selections. We don't do rankings. In every category, you just pick the one that you're voting for.
And for Best Animated Feature, the 5 films you'll be choosing from are Big Hero 6, The Box Trolls, How to Train Your Dragon 2, The Lego Movie, and the Tale of the Princess Kaguya. Now, the one film I was really rooting for in that race that I wasn't sure had enough exposure, and it turned out not to have quite enough exposure, was Song of the Sea, which did make it in for the Oscars, but didn't quite have enough support to get in Best Animated Feature. I think it also finished 6th.
Well, all I can say is no one can get on our case for ignoring a certain movie that a lot of us were complaining about a couple weeks ago.
That's going to win about every award possible except for one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will take over with visual effects. I do want to just say welcome as well, and also congratulations on we are the only award show where you don't have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning to find out the nominees. So that's the plus side. Downside, no breakfast buffet, but I think we can manage. So for the category Best Visual Effects, the nominees are Birdman, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Godzilla, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Interstellar. What did we have?
Now that was an interesting category. Yeah, that was just an interesting category. The one thing that surprised me as I was noticing our voting as it was underway was Birdman rising on the chart until it was in nomination position, and it was very interesting to see a film that isn't really an effects film to wind up in an effects race.
It's definitely interesting. It's one that you have to think of and you go, oh yeah, there are some startling visual effects in that movie. It's one of those types of movies like Forrest Gump, which actually ended up winning the Oscar for visual effects. And in Best Sound, we have American Sniper, Birdman, Interstellar, Into the Woods, and Whiplash.
And as a note, we, unlike the Oscars, we have just the one category for sound, so that's an award that includes sound editing and sound mixing, both considered together in one melange of soundiness. Is the technical term.
What the Oscars should do.
I think so too, yeah.
Just add the mixers and the editors together. They're the only branch that has this weird stipulation.
And I'm not going to weigh into this because I don't want sound unions to get on my case. I'm going to be very, very nervous about that. So, and in the Best Song category, we have from Begin Again, the song Lost Stars. From Big Eyes, the song Big Eyes. From The Hunger Games, Mockingjay Part 1, the song Yellow Flicker Beat. From The Lego Movie, the song Everything is Awesome. And from Selma, the song Glory. Any interesting rankings on that one, Daniel?
One that I noticed, it was another one that I added after we began voting, that by popular demand I added it, and I hadn't even thought of it. I was so mad at myself because I ended up picking it as my number one choice, was the song I Love You All from the movie Frank. I was very excited to see that rise after I added it, and it finished in 7th place. Didn't quite have the juice to make it in. Probably enough people didn't see the film. But yeah, I was really excited that had a top 10 finish at least.
Well, to continue with music, we'll go to Best Score, and the first one in the group is one that wasn't even eligible at the Oscars for some reason, and that's Birdman. We also have Gone Girl, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Interstellar, and The Theory of Everything. So some of the ones at the Oscars are there, but I think only 3. Best Production Design, we have Birdman, Grand Budapest Hotel, Interstellar, Into the Woods, and Snowpiercer gets into Best Production Design.
Yeah, Snowpiercer was one of my favorite nominees in any of the below-the-line categories. You know, I was late to that party. I didn't see the film until I streamed it on Netflix a month ago, and boy, is that a deserved nomination. That was absolutely a beautifully designed film, just to create the interior of that train and the various social strata therein. It was really beautiful. I'm so happy it made it in, and it made it in safely. This top 5 was locked in pretty quickly.
There were this type of category. I think even at the Oscars, it was a great year for production design. One more category I'm going to announce and then turn it back over to Daniel, and that's makeup and hair. And for me, this is exactly opposite of the sound. Why the Oscar voters don't get 5 every year? There's certainly 5 worthy contenders for makeup and hair, and I don't know why that branch only allows themselves to only have 3. But in our case, we do 5, and our 5 are Foxcatcher, Grand Budapest Hotel, Guardians of the Galaxy, Into the Woods, and Maleficent.
And of course, it was very surprising that Into the Woods didn't even make the short list for the Oscars. I still don't quite understand how that happened. I mean, personally speaking, I would have considered it at least as worthy as Steve Carell's prosthetic nose in Foxcatcher.
Well, and I just moved Foxcatcher into first into my Oscar predictions, but I'm not happy about that. I think there was really only one thing that you would call, prominent makeup or hair in that movie, and it's not the hair side. It was just that nose on Steve Carell. So I don't know that little nose deserves an Oscar.
I'm personally betting on the Grand Budapest Hotel to win the Oscar at least.
I had that in first forever, but then I'm looking at my whole list on my screen, and I've got Grand Budapest predicted. It's like I've got them in too many spots, and I'm one of the few I think that has them in score too. So I just looked at it and went, I just can't see them winning that many, and I moved Foxcatcher up into makeup and hair. But anyway, people don't want to know our predictions today.
Oh, we can do what we want. They'll wait for us.
Yeah, we've saved all the best categories, so they'll hang around.
You'll sit there and you'll like it, Gold Derby.
Okay, that brings us to Best Film Editing. The nominees there, we have Birdman, Boyhood, Gone Girl, Interstellar, and Whiplash. Now, I don't know what, the Oscars obviously have this sort of unusual correlation between Best Picture and Best Film Editing. I don't remember. I'd have to look back to see if the Gold Derby Film Awards have that as well. We probably don't have that much of a, of a firm connection, like you need this nomination to win our Best Picture prize. So good news to anyone who's not nominated there. You might be okay. Okay, for Best Costume Design, we've got The Grand Budapest Hotel, Guardians of the Galaxy, Into the Woods, Maleficent, and Mr. Turner. And that's a category that's very similar to the Oscars. The big prize there, I would say, would be Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think it's a well-deserved nomination. I think Guardians of the Galaxy wasn't necessarily one of my favorite films, but it was so beautiful on just about every technical level. So that was really exciting to see.
Mm-hmm.
And for Best Cinematography, we actually have 6 nominees because there was a tie. The 6 nominees for cinematography are Birdman, Gone Girl, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Ida, Interstellar, and Mr. Turner, and the cinematographer is Dick Pope. I'll say that.
Very well done.
And now category which I think is just an amazingly stacked category with 5 amazing nominees. I can't even tell who's going to be out front. For Best Breakthrough Performer, our nominees are Carrie Coon, David Oyelowo, Rosamund Pike, Chris Pratt, and Miles Teller.
Yeah, the breakthrough performer category is one of my favorites whenever we do it. It's such a diverse group. You have men and women. It's not the same sort of whitewashed kind of group that we often see at the Oscars. And to see Carrie Coon, it's her feature film debut, nominated alongside David Oyelowo, who's been working for a while and really had a huge year, and Miles Teller and Chris Pratt, and it's just a really, really good group. This is one of my favorite categories too.
Yeah, when I saw this group, I just thought I can't. Several categories I know exactly who I'm voting for. This one I'm going to have to stare at that screen because I don't know yet. And the other nice thing I think that we decided years ago was this is the one category where we do not attach a film name next to that person, because we're just taking into account what kind of year did they have for 2014, not for a particular film. In several cases here, they only had one film. But I remember 2 or 3 years ago, I think Jessica Chastain won here, and that was her breakout year where she had maybe 5 movies, maybe more than that. So we don't attach a particular film to this.
And I think that's especially, important this year because, David Oyelowo, obviously Selma was his big project, but he was also in A Most Violent Year in Interstellar. Chris Pratt had Guardians of the Galaxy and Lego Movie. Even Rosamund Pike was in, Gone Girl is the film was really her breakthrough film, but she had a few films in 2014 also. So, it's nice to see them. You're considering their body of work from the past year as it elevated their careers. And I just want to note that a couple of people who just missed out, who I was a little surprised missed out. Eller Coltrane was just outside the top 5, and Jack O'Connell, who also had a big breakthrough year, they just missed out.
Well, let's look at Best Ensemble, and we're one of the few groups that does that. Of course, SAG does that, and Critics' Choice does that. We've got 5 nominees, and they are Birdman, Boyhood, Gone Girl, The Grand Budapest Hotel, and Into the Woods. And honestly, I like our group better than what SAG did this year. I think this is a better group than they had.
Agreed.
Yeah, and just by simply swapping in Gone Girl and Into the Woods for instead of SAG had Theory of Everything, and Theory of Everything is a really great 2-character piece. I thought it was kind of unusual that they nominated that for ensemble at SAG. It seemed odd to me. So I definitely like these. These feel more like true ensemble pieces.
Yeah, I like this group very much, and I'm going to have a hard time. Well, no, I know exactly what I'm picking, but it's a stellar group.
Okay, so that brings us to the screenplay races. The nominees for Best Adapted Screenplay are Gone Girl, Guardians of the Galaxy, The Imitation Game, Inherent Vice, and The Theory of Everything. And let me just say, this category was one I was like on the edge of my seat while I was watching the voting come in, and I was kind of disappointed. I won't say which film was in fifth place that overtook it, but for a while, Snowpiercer was in our top 5, and it was just edged out in the last week or so. So I thought, I really would have liked to see it in there, but I am glad to see something like Guardians of the Galaxy get it. It does show that the Gold Derby community isn't quite as biased against sci-fi blockbusters as the Academy is, because certainly Guardians of the Galaxy was at least as well reviewed as some of this year's Oscar movies.
I agree.
And that brings us to Best Original Screenplay, which is just so stacked. So many films that got left out here and at the Oscars for original screenplay just because there were so many films on the original side this year. The 5 our users chose were Birdman, Boyhood, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Nightcrawler, and Whiplash. And I just want to note that we have Whiplash in the original category. The Academy made its assertion that Whiplash was an adapted screenplay after we had already started voting. We could have moved it over, but I figured the BAFTA had it as an original screenplay. The Writers Guild had it as an original screenplay, Critics' Choice. So I thought it was in its best interest and in the best interest of the voting to leave it in the original category, and it turned out to work out for the film. So congratulations to those 5.
Well, and I'm glad we made that decision because, I don't care what the Academy did, but every other group in the world had Whiplash as an original, so I don't think we're out of line keeping it there. But by doing that, it made this 5. That is an amazing group of, like you said, everything this year is so stacked on the original side, even at the Oscars, that it makes it a tough call.
Definitely. And now getting into some even more upper tier categories. For Best Supporting Actress, our nominees are Patricia Arquette for Boyhood, Jessica Chastain for A Most Violent Year, Emma Stone for Birdman, Meryl Streep for Into the Woods, and Tilda Swinton for Snowpiercer. And that one just makes me smile because she just gives such a distinctive performance in that movie.
She does. I was very happy to see that happen, and this was a really good category. Even the people who didn't make the cut here were good. I mean, the notable snub who was nominated at the Oscars, Keira Knightley, we had her down in around 8th place. The ones who were actually vying for that 5th slot who just missed out were Rene Russo in Nightcrawler, and who was that other one? I'm drawing a blank now.
Laura Dern?
No, Laura Dern was not very close. It was actually Carrie Coon. Carrie Coon and Gone Girl finished 6th. So this was a very interesting lineup.
Well, our nominees for supporting actor are similar to the Oscars, but with one major exception. They are Ethan Hawke for Birdman, for Boyhood, Edward Norton for Birdman. That would have been an interesting swap if that had happened that way. Mark Ruffalo for Foxcatcher, Andy Serkis for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and J.K. Simmons for Whiplash. And I interviewed Andy Serkis a few months ago, and he wants everybody in the world to know that what he does and people like him do is acting. It's not anything but acting. And I will make sure his reps get this notification because I think he'll be thrilled.
Yeah, and it's not the first time we've actually nominated him, though. The Academy Awards have been very leery of performance capture acting, we actually nominated him for a breakthrough performance for the year of the Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, when he really made his big first impact as Gollum. So he's back in the running for us. But he wasn't nominated for supporting actor then, though, and he wasn't. I think he came close to a supporting actor nomination in our voting for Rise of the Planet of the Apes a few years ago. But yeah, this is his first nomination in one of the top tier categories.
Well, I like Tilda Swinton and like Andy Serkis here. I just love it when we go our own way, and that I hope all of these nominees through all the categories realize that while this isn't on TV or a big award show, I don't know that there. I mean, you're talking about 1,000+ film fanatics, and if you get a nomination from us, it's because some people that love film liked what you did this year.
Yeah, and it's definitely film fanatics because, it's not like, we diverged from the Oscars always picking the big films that everyone has seen. I mean, we got Ida into, cinematography. We got, a Snowpiercer into a couple of these races. It's these people, our users are very selective and very, very well versed in these films. So, definitely, I think these awards matter at least as much as the Golden Globes. Can we at least agree that?
10 times.
I will say
10 times the number of voters.
I will say about us not being on TV, we're not on yet. I'm still trying to buy public access time.
Well, good luck with that. The nominees for Best Actress, who would love to be on your public access show, I'm sure. The nominees are Jennifer Aniston, Cake, Marion Cotillard, 2 Days, One Night, Julianne Moore, Still Alice, Rosamund Pike, Gone Girl, and Reese Witherspoon, Wild. Now, the big story for me there is seeing that Jennifer Aniston and Marion Cotillard both got in. Maybe not who people would have expected would have been the one left out was Felicity Jones in The Theory of Everything. She did finish in sixth place, but she was edged out by one of these ladies in the fifth position. And I'm actually kind of excited about that. I really loved Aniston and Cake and Cotillard in 2 Days, One Night, so I'm glad they both got in there.
I know people in our forums were worried that one would beat out the other. I heard it both ways, and just to have them both in there, I think, is really good for us.
All right, and the nominees for Best Performance by an Actor in a Leading Role are Benedict Cumberbatch for The Imitation Game, Ralph Fiennes for The Grand Budapest Hotel, Jake Gyllenhaal for Nightcrawler, Michael Keaton for Birdman, and Eddie Redmayne for The Theory of Everything.
Yeah, and this category was one, Best Actor, like the Oscars, like everywhere else, snubs were inevitable because there were so many so many actors crammed into this category this year. The most disappointing for me was David Oyelowo, who we did nominate for Breakthrough Performer, which may account for maybe some of his shortfall in votes in Best Actor. He did finish in sixth place. Steve Carell finished in seventh place in our voting, which interesting, he also finished in the top 10 in the supporting category, so I don't know if vote splitting hurt him there. And then Bradley Cooper finished in eighth place, so we had a lot of the top Oscar candidates. We also had Matthew McConaughey in for Interstellar. He was in the top 11 or 12. Tom Hardy and Locke was in somewhere around the top 10. So, it was a really, really good lineup that we had. If we had gone numbers 6 through 10 as the nominees, I think they would have been just about as good.
The last few years for film, that Best Actor is just so stacked every year. I don't know how people even narrow that down when they're voting because it's very, very difficult. Well, Best Director is our next to last category, and the nominees are Wes Anderson for The Grand Budapest Hotel, Ava DuVernay for Selma, I hope that's saying her name right, David Fincher for Gone Girl, Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu for Birdman, and Richard Linklater for Boyhood.
And this was nice to see. It was nice to see Ava DuVernay get in for Selma. It was nice to see David Fincher get in for Gone Girl. And I definitely think those two, directorial achievements certainly stand above a couple of the Oscar nominees. So I think I like our director lineup a lot better than the Oscars. And
Well,
that
you have the honor of the last category.
That brings us to the last category, Best Picture, and this year we have decided to expand Best Picture to 10 nominees. It is the first time we're doing this, but the Academy awards as many as 10, Critics' Choice picks 10, the AFI picks 10, the Golden Globes pick 10 in essence with comedies and dramas. So we have expanded to 10. I hope you all like these 10 nominees. I'm very happy with the lineup. It's a very interesting, diverse lineup. The nominees are Birdman, Boyhood, Gone Girl, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Guardians of the Galaxy, The Imitation Game, Interstellar, Nightcrawler, Selma, and Whiplash. Now, and that is, I really like that lineup we have, and it's very spread out. We have the big sci-fi movies of the year. We have the smaller movies. We have Gone Girl represented with actual women in it. We have I like this lineup of 10. It feels fresh and invigorated in a way that I'm glad we did the expansion this year.
It feels not just like it's not. It feels like a true representation of what deserves to be recognized, not just what people think should be recognized.
Yeah, I like this, and I don't know that if we had gone with 5, that you would have gotten in all of the diversity that you have here. I'm not talking about diversity like you might normally hear, but I'm like you said. I mean, the smaller movies, the big blockbuster movies, the typical Oscar kind of movies. I mean, it's just a really nice, diverse lineup, and I know what I'm choosing myself, but I'm not happy about leaving some of these off because I really, really like some of these movies.
And I just want to go over some of the statistics of this year's nominations. I'm sure people who are listening, I'm sure they have like the tallies out, but I'll make it easy for you. Birdman actually led the way with 13 nominations. Then the Grand Budapest Hotel with 10. So just like the Oscars, those are our top nominees, but we love them even more than the Oscars did. And then in third place with 8 nominations, Gone Girl. So we definitely redeemed that from what the Oscars did. Boyhood and Interstellar had 7 nominations each. Into the Woods had 6 nominations, so it's the most nominated film that didn't actually make it into the Best Picture lineup, though actually it did finish in 11th place for Best Picture. And Guardians of the Galaxy and Whiplash both had 5 nominations apiece.
Good for them.
As you did all the counting, were there any surprises beyond the ones we've talked about?
It was a surprise how little support there was for the Theory of Everything. Theory of Everything, I think, finished 17th or 18th for Best Picture. I think it finished well out of the top 20 for Best Director. And if you consider also who else missed the lineup, Morton Tildum for The Imitation Game. Imitation Game only has 3 nominations total from us. But Morton Tildum finished well out of the running also. He wasn't even really close. And I love that some people who did get close were actually really exciting, or close-ish. Christopher Nolan was in 6th place for Best Director. Bong Joon-ho for Snowpiercer was in our top 10 for Best Director. So we had some really interesting selections there. So I hope people aren't too discouraged if those sorts of things didn't make it in to think that they had no support at all. There was a really exciting amount of support for some of these what you would consider fringe candidates.
Well, I just love the fact that our voters don't feel forced to do something, and I get that feeling with a lot of the big groups where they feel like, oh, I got to mark this one or we look bad, or this movie, I don't like it, but everybody else seems to like it. I better vote for it. And I don't get that sense from our voters. Obviously, we've got a lot of Oscar contenders here, but we've got a lot that aren't, and I really, really like that.
So so those are our nominations for this year, and we will in a few minutes. I will publish the full list and the announcement, and you will be able to start voting tonight, pretty soon. So look out for that. Do either of you, Chris, Charlie, have any more closing thoughts before we sign off?
I mentioned it earlier, but I'll let people know. We started this prediction center version of this, I guess, 3 years ago, and early on we did allow you to rank, but we decided last year that in this phase that's coming up next, where you'll be voting, you can only vote for one in each category. You're not going to rank them 1 through 5, or in the case of Best Picture, 1 through 10. You just drag over the one that you're voting for. And I think that as we've looked at statistics and looked at the way this works overall, I think that allows for us to have much better winners without people trying to hurt the candidates they think are going to beat their candidate, or try to make it mediocre. You're constantly ranking, this one or that one second or third, and they wind up winning. We want passion. That's why we only allow you to vote for 3 in the nomination phase anymore, because what was happening was you'd get to a particular category, and I know I would do this, and you'd go, okay, I like this one, I like this one, I like this one, and oh no, who am I going to put in 4th and 5th? And you wind up putting the names that you continually hear during award season. And what that does is it makes our nominees more mediocre beyond that top 1 or 2. So I think that's why you see so many of these kinds of names that aren't Oscar nominees on our pool, because it's all about passion with us. It's all about who do you love and not who do you tolerate.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I like. I've heard people say, "Oh, I wish you could vote for 5." And there are a lot of categories where you'd be passionate about at least 5 films, or 5 performances, and I know that was certainly the case for me. But let me just agree with Chris. I watched the voting happen. I watched the tallies go up and down as things were happening. Trust me, you do not want more than 3 choices here, because it's just like Chris says. It ends up with those 3rd place, 4th place, 5th place rankings end up bumping up the more familiar consensus kind of compromise choices, when we really want the passionate choices here. So for instance, one of the nominees for adapted screenplay that I will not reveal, it was nominated for adapted screenplay, even though it finished in about 9th place for #1 votes, but it had tons of #3 votes. So that's the kind of compromise choice that can be good sometimes. It's a movie, a nominee a lot of people can agree on, but not a movie a lot of people are passionate about necessarily. So it's really nice to get the passion come in more than the compromise.
And I'll also add, and I know Charlie probably wants to add something here. I've been doing this since we started. I guess this is the 13th year. And even before we had this prediction center, what I love about our voters and the people on our website is, and I would encourage you to have this mindset when you vote, we don't care what you vote for. Don't feel like you have to vote for Boyhood if that's not a movie you liked. Don't feel like you have to vote for Birdman if that's not a movie you liked, or anything on our list. Any person, any category, you vote for what you want to vote for, because we are the group that one year our best picture was Wall-E. One year our best picture was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. We've had lots, and last year Leo DiCaprio won, not Matthew McConaughey. So you vote what is passionate to you in every single category, and I promise you we'll wind up with a great winners list here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I definitely concur with all of that, and I just look at this Best Picture lineup and I go, I think to myself how different I feel than how I felt on the morning of January 18th. I'm looking at this lineup and I'm like, now that's a lineup. That represents, the best of film. And even if you may have 1 or 2 qualms with a film not getting on there, you look at that list and you go, that represents some of the best of 2014.
Yeah, and yeah, I'll just end on that note of do vote your passion. Do not, and I would say don't even vote strategically. Don't be like, okay, I love this film, but it doesn't have a chance. I'll vote for this one instead that might get a chance. I say vote for what you love, and even if it doesn't win, I think we'll have better winners if everyone votes for what they love instead of just trying to get on the winning team. So definitely, and I know I'm going to do that. I am the patron saint of Lost Awards causes. I am probably not going to have any one of my votes, my choices win, but I'm going to vote for them anyway because they're that good. So everyone also should do the same, and we will do that right away as soon as we launch the predictions. Very soon, look for that within the next, I'd say 30 minutes or an hour or so. We should have that launched and ready. For Chris Beachum and Charlie Bright, I'm Daniel Montgomery. These are the 13th annual Gold Derby Award nominations. We hope you like them. So have a great night.